Good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, whichever time zone you're in. And I don't think we've got anybody who needs to be wished a good morning, but apologies if there are. My name is Moira Mathers, and I'm the Communications and Gender Lead for United for Efficiency. Welcome to this webinar to kick off the discussions on a regional compact for higher performance, eco-efficient lighting appliances and equipment for all. My job here today is just to mention a few housekeeping points before we get into the main content of the webinar. The first thing to say is the event is being recorded and we're going to make it available through our website after the event so that you can share it with colleagues or just review some of the points that were made yourselves at your leisure later. All the attendees to the meeting are muted, so if you do have a question, if you could use the question and answer panel, which is, I think for most people, will be on the right-hand side of the viewing screen. We'll do our best to respond to all those questions live as part of the webinar, but if we do run out of time, we will follow up on any that we're not able to get to. So without any further ado, I'd like to hand over to Miriam Hinostroza, who is the head of the United Nations Environment Programme Global Climate Action Unit, and she's going to give you the formal welcome for the event and an introduction to energy compacts. Over to you, Miriam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Moira, and good afternoon, good evening, dear participants. And first of all, thank you all for attending this side event. And also thank you to the organizers, my colleagues from the United for Efficiency Initiative, for giving me this opportunity to give you a warm welcome on behalf of the United Nations Environment Programme and the United for Efficiency team itself. As you know, SDG is about ensuring access to energy for all, which requires transitioning from fossil fuel-based energy systems towards affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy systems, and this by increasing substantially the share of renewable energy in the global energy mix and by doubling the global rate of improvement in energy efficiency. So just to give you a context, I would like to reflect around three key messages as an intent to frame your discussions and potentially to incentivize and laying the foundations for a potential compact raising from this side event. So the race to achieve the SDGs by 2030 and to achieve net zero emissions by 2050 requires eco-efficient products to take a much more central role. So just to remember this context, that according to the latest UNEP emission gap report, the world is still heading for a temperature rise in excess of 3 degrees Celsius this century, far beyond the Paris Agreement goals of limiting global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius and pursuing 1.5 degrees Celsius. So the energy sector, as you know, is the source of around 3/4 of greenhouse gas emissions and holds the key to averting the worst effects of climate change, reducing global carbon dioxide emissions to net zero by 2050, calls for nothing less than complete transformation of how we produce, transport, and consume energy. And this transition needs to be done under circumstances on which rising populations and economic growth are increasing demand for energy services. Due to this and improved access to electricity as well and warming climate, billions of new appliances will be added to global stock by 2030. This relentless growth in electricity demand also means that the entire global electrical infrastructure will double by 2050. And the electricity sector, however, represents the single largest source of greenhouse gas emissions from energy. To break this vicious circle, we need to make our societies much more eco-efficient. We must urgently enhance the energy efficiency of our buildings, lights, fridges, air conditioners, and other appliances to ensure that we get on a pathway to net zero. So governments and businesses must work together to truly drive the change that's needed to get to net zero as rapidly as possible. For example, by committing to adopt only green procurement, sourcing only the most eco-efficient products and services around, and saving hundreds of billions of dollars each year in the process. As one example, UNEP is working in partnership with all the main products sectors, including the world's cooling product manufacturers, to transform the global market to much more climate-friendly, sustainable, eco-efficient products and digital services. The other point I wanted to make is that by designing effective policies, it is possible to end energy poverty and change the global energy matrix to a sustainable, energy efficient, climate friendly one in single generation. So about 90% of the nationally determined contributions submitted under the Paris Agreement mention energy efficiency. But concrete implementation of effective energy efficiency policies is still needed in many countries, which are especially important for the high energy consuming sectors such as electrical products. To bridge this policy gap, UNEP's United for Efficiencies initiative works with governments, regional centers, international organizations, private sector and NGOs to develop successful integrated policy approaches to accelerating the switch to energy efficient solutions. Point number 3 is that overall, we need to step up international coordination between governments, industry, and civil society in order to meet the medium and long-term strategic sustainable development goals and the Paris Agreement and the net zero commitments. From where we sit here in the United Nations, it is clear that energy sustainability cannot be achieved at the country level only, and that we need to work together more to ensure the world send effective signals to consumers, manufacturers, to rapidly increase energy efficiency. Common targets for applying minimum energy performance standards, as well as higher energy performance standards, can help market participants plan and deliver cost-effective, highly efficient appliances. These efforts should not be by countries in isolation, but rather benefiting from regional collaboration with the aim of harmonizing policies. These regional efforts reduce trade barriers for manufacturers, reduce implementation costs, such as by sharing testing laboratories, and help in sharing of experiences from frontrunner countries. So better coordination needs to happen through platforms like in UNEP, United for Efficiency, Cool Coalition, the Global Alliance for Buildings and Constructions, as well as the G20 Super Efficient Equipment and Appliance Deployment Initiatives. So these need to work and hand in hand to deliver the full benefits of energy efficiency across sectors. So the United Nations Energy Compacts provide a modality to ramp up the spotlight on eco-efficient products by providing an inclusive umbrella dedicated to bring together voluntary commitments on all SDG 7 targets in support of achieving all SDGs by 2030 and net zero emissions by 2050. Bringing together a compact for higher performance, eco-efficient lighting appliances and equipment for all can assist in accelerating the action aims of the various stakeholders. An eco-efficient electrical product compact across regions can support the urgent common goals for faster market transformation, such as implementing the MEPS incentives, financing mechanisms, and procurement policies by agreed timeframes, as well as setting out clear goals for getting to net zero. Accountability, experience sharing, and reporting can assist in ensuring regions, nations, the private sector, and civil society have the benefit of the most effective technology and policy know-how and are delivering on the effective commitments needed. So today we will hear from some of these stakeholders in this field through two panels. The first on regional compact underway on energy efficient lighting appliances and equipment, which is bringing together regional centers from Southern Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America, representing more than 60 countries. And the other one, commitments from manufacturers that efficient lighting appliances and equipment are available. So this is also bringing together global manufacturers and networks such as Electrolux, Hitachi, ABB Power Grids, and the International Copper Association. So this event is being hosted alongside the Ministerial Thematic Forums on the high-level dialogue on energy. We have already started hearing from national governments and leaders from business, cities, civil society, and youth organizations and other stakeholders on their energy compacts, setting out their voluntary commitments and actions. So I encourage the moderators, the panelists, to think ambitiously on how we can work collectively in the space of energy efficient lighting, appliances, and equipment to help achieve the SDGs, the Paris Agreement, and the net zero commitments, as the sector represents a major global economic and environmental opportunity for such a faster, cost-effective, and complete global market transformation to sustainable energy for all. I wish you a fruitful event, and I hand it over to Patrick Blake, and the program, who is a program officer from UNEP's United for Efficiency team, to take us through the first panel. Patrick, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Miriam, for the introduction. Again, I'm Patrick Blake from United Nations Environment Program, United for Efficiency, and very pleased to be with you today for this first panel on regional compacts underway on energy efficient lighting, appliances, and equipment. We see regional harmonization as a key opportunity in advancing energy efficient lighting, appliances, and equipment for the product efficiency through bringing together groups of countries to develop standards, policies, and projects in a harmonized manner. It can help reduce trade barriers, share experiences between countries, and also reduce implementation costs, such as through sharing of laboratories. So with that, I'm very excited to have three panelists with us today that we're working with very closely on regional harmonization. In total, they collectively have over 60 countries underneath them, and also spanning from Asia, Africa, to Latin America. So with that, I would ask the panelists to turn on their videos, and I will introduce them. The first, I believe, is having a bit of connectivity issues. So I'll start by introducing Septia, Manager of Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Department from the ASEAN Center for Energy, ACE, based in Jakarta, Indonesia. And also Guillermo, coming from OLADE, the Latin America Energy Organization, and is the Acting Director of Integration, Access, and Energy Security. And OLADE, of course, is based in Quito. So I'm told that our third panelist is having a bit of connectivity issues, and I'm sure we can have him join the conversation when he's able to connect. And that's, of course, Kuda from the Southern African Development Community Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency. So with that, again, with this panel is focused on the regional centers as a key body to promote energy efficiency in a systematic and harmonized manner. So I really would like to hear from the centers on the actions that they've done in the past on energy efficient lighting and appliances, and also upcoming activities that could form commitments for energy efficient lighting appliance and equipment. So each panelist, I'd ask them to have some short opening remarks on this topic, and then we can have a few follow-up questions. And again, as was stated at the start, please do put any questions into the chat, which you can see on the bottom right of your screen, and we'll do our best to address those as well. So with that, I'll ask Septia from the ASEAN Center for Energy to start with his opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the participants. On behalf of the ASEAN Center for Energy, this is very pleasure of mine to join this event. And I totally agree with the earlier opening from Miriam that we need more commitment on energy efficiency. We given opportunity from UNEP 4E to join many events, and this is one of the wonderful events that we can share perspective and best practice, and we can see whether from the region we already on the right track to enhance our energy efficiency efforts for the region. Ladies and gentlemen, I also totally agree with the theme of this event. From our ASEAN Energy Outlook, the 6th ASEAN Energy Outlook, which was launched in 2020, we recognize the total final energy consumption of ASEAN is forecasted around 500 MTOE in 2025, and will be increasing to around 900 MTOE in 2040 under baseline scenario. And in 2025, the regions, the ASEAN TFEC is projected to be around 470 MTOE and in the ASEAN target scenario, and around 450 MTOE in our ASEAN progressive scenario. By this, we need more and more support and cooperation to enhance and to utilize better our energy for the increasing demand for the region. In ASEAN, we have 7 program area. One of the program area on energy efficiency and conservation, or ENC program. On this, ASEAN actually achieved our energy intensity reduction of 21% by 2018. It's surpassing its aspirational target of 20% in 2020 over 2005 level. We also developed 3 policy recommendations and documents were endorsed by our energy ministers. For example, we have regional policy roadmaps on harmonization of maps for air conditioners in 2017, also for lighting in 2019. We also prepared guidelines of integration of energy efficiency into ASEAN EEE Mutual Recognition Arrangement, or MRA, in 2019, which is this is the first cross-sectoral initiative by the ASEAN energy sector. To add, we also prepared around 50 or until 100, if I'm not mistaken, energy manager trainers were certified under our ASEAN program. We have also in 2017 ASEAN Shine project for lighting, and we also prepare our dedicated program for Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar to close the gaps for the country in improving energy efficiency on, we call it ASEAN +3 mitigation cooperation under support of China, Japan, and Korea. And we also include several initiatives and report preparation to provide recommendation for our policymakers, for example, on the ESCO and best practice. And we recognize best practice from the private sectors in applying energy efficiency. So we make award ceremony from year to year, which are recognized by our energy minister as well. Ladies and gentlemen, from the last ASEAN Energy Ministers on Energy meeting, which was held virtually by Vietnam, our ministers acknowledge the development of the regional product registration database and national lighting roadmaps, with one of the output of close cooperation between the ASEAN Center for Energy and UNEP-E4E, and we really appreciate them. And we keen to have more and more engagement and cooperation to support the ASEAN region. On this, we are continuing our activities towards more successful implementation for our ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Cooperation. Under our energy blueprint, or the next phase of our energy blueprint, which covering 2016 and 2025 period, we try to increase we increase our commitment in energy efficiency to further reduce energy intensity in TPS from 20% to 32% by 2025, against of course 2005 baseline. In 2020, our ministers noted our achievement around 24.9% of energy intensity reduction, which is more than the earlier target. Ladies and gentlemen, ASEAN has started developing and harmonizing standards for energy efficient products, started from guidelines applied for energy performance testing of AC. Guidelines hopefully will be applied within the region, and we do hope this will pave the way for the adoption of other higher efficiency and climate-friendly appliances such as lighting, air cooling systems. And I do hope in today's discussion you would like to have and hear several other activities in the energy efficiency sector from different regions, and best practice, of course, to better prepare more commitment for energy efficiency. I hope we can have an insightful discussion today, and please feel free to explore any potential cooperation and work with the ASEAN Center for Energy. Thank you very much. Back to you, Patrick.
Thank you very much, Satya, and great to see all the activities underway, particularly with the growing demands in many of the countries in Southeast Asia. So from there, I think we can go to Latin America to hear about some of the activities underway there. Guillermo, would you like to provide some opening remarks as well? Thanks.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Patrick, for the invitation. Thank you very much, Moira, also for setting up this important event, and also for taking into account the Latin American Energy Organization, OLADE, which is the main energy organization of Latin America and the Caribbean, with 27 member countries. We are very pleased to be with you today, and good afternoon, good evening for everybody at the room. To have an opening remarks on the main question that you mentioned, what could say in Latin America and the Caribbean, we could say about harmonization or standardizations of lighting and appliances, that we have a huge possibility to enhance cooperation on harmonization of lighting, appliances, equipment, and other sectors, because we have no regional organization or a regional standard to follow on energy efficiency as a whole sector. Many countries in our region have its own national bills or regulations to enhance energy efficiency in different sectors, such as lighting, cooling, heating, electrical motors, and appliances, but all of them are different. If you see one country from another, they are all different. But regarding legislation as a whole, if you are not familiar with the region, we have, of those 27 that I mentioned, 11 countries with national laws: Mexico, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Uruguay, among others. 5 countries that they are still evolving, they're still working on projects on legislation, such as Argentina, Guatemala, El Salvador, and others. But we are still a very way to go on appliances, lighting, and equipment. This is what I just mentioned is energy efficiency as a whole. A consistent energy efficiency policy is very important to OLADE and our countries. And according to our own studies regarding energy efficiency, by 2040 in our region, the current policies would have saved in Latin America 201 terawatts hour of electricity. So if we apply some energy efficiency policies as in Latin America as a whole, the electricity consumption that we will save, it's equivalent to all the residential sector of our Andean countries, which are Bolivia, Peru, Colombia, and Ecuador. So it's huge amount of savings. That is why we need to move forward on harmonization, not only in lighting, appliances, and equipment, but also in other sectors, such as the residential or industrial. But we have some good starting points in Latin America and the Caribbean. We have in this region the COPANT, which is the Pan American Commission on Technical Norms, and they involve more than 40 national harmonization organizations, which are the ones that make national legislation in our countries. They could be considered as an important regional actor to start harmonization policies on every sector, harmonization policies that we lack of. OLADE, as you know, is an energy organization. Energy efficiency, of course, is extremely important, taking into account the context that Miriam Hinostroza mentioned at the beginning of this panel, the context of the net zero by 2050 and the decarbonization. But we are also seeing another aspects of energy, such as transitions, in energy integration, energy security, energy access and poverty, and of course, capacity building for our state members. Finally, on this first part of my intervention, there's also a job done in our region by the PTV, the German Metrology Institute. They have been always support Latin American Caribbean efforts for enhanced energy efficiency, and they worked in Mexico, Argentina, and the Mercosur as a whole. In fact, talking about the Mercosur, we have a very good example of how international cooperation between Mercosur countries and the PTV would help the harmonization on appliances. PTV and Mercosur subscribe, for example, an agreement to enhance quality infrastructure and appliances and to foster confidence from the consumers regarding energy efficiency labeling on Mercosur countries. That's a rough picture. I would stop here, Patrick, and wait for a question if they are needed. Thank you.
Okay, great. No, thank you for those insights, Guillermo. So with that, I see that Kuda, you've been able to connect as well. So just to introduce you briefly, Kuda, director from the Southern African Development Communities Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, who we've been working very closely in a number of different projects. So Kuda, would you like to provide a bit of insights in recent work in Southern Africa and some upcoming activities as well? Over to you, Kuda.
Thank you, Patrick. Good day, everybody. As has been introduced, my name is Kuda Ndlukula, work for the SADC Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency. Apologies for joining late. I was having some technical challenges joining the meeting. Thank you for your patience. Yes, so the SADC Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, it's a regional organization that was established in 2015 by the SADC ministers responsible for energy. Given a mandate to primarily deal with two things, that is to contribute to improved energy access, as well as to improve energy security across the SADC region by way of promoting uptake of renewable energy and energy efficiency. So why then, you may wonder why these two issues? As a region, we have energy access levels that are really astonishing in terms of there's huge discrepancies. We have countries, about 2 or 3 countries that have access levels of 100%, while then you have the rest of the countries that have energy access levels ranging from as low as 20%, but averaging across the region is about 40, 50, 48, 50% energy access levels. You are looking at a region of approximately 400 million people. So you are looking at roughly around 200 million people that do not have access to electricity, or more than that. And then also at the same time, we have been experiencing a lot of, high energy insecurity in the form of blackouts, brownouts, load shedding for quite some time, largely due to a number of issues like droughts, also the heavy dependence, looking at old equipment, power plants that are old and are unable to meet the growing demand for electricity. But at the same time, it's a region that has abundance of renewable energy, and also there's huge potential for energy efficiency across the region. So this is the main reason why then the center was established to address these issues of energy insecurity and energy access. So coming to energy efficiency, it has been identified as a priority for the region. Primarily, when you look at the load shedding, the power deficit that we've been experiencing, so an assessment that was done way back to identify what are those areas where intervention is required, especially from the demand side management aspect. And a number of interventions were identified from lighting, water heating, industrial energy efficiency, and other aspects of other measures of demand side management. So then as a region, we're then mandated to come in and help address these challenges. So on energy efficient lighting, what actually the region came up with a resolution to phase out incandescent bulb or inefficient lighting. But then the modalities of phasing out this inefficient lighting are the ones that became a challenge. So SACRI then approached development partners. In this case, we are collaborating with we are funded by SIDA, the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, together with UNIDO and also our counterparts in East Africa, to address the decision to phase out inefficient lighting. So in this case, we came up with a program called Inefficient Lighting in the Appliances Project, which is looking at introducing minimum energy performance standards so that they can assist in the phasing out of inefficient lighting. And we are also at the same time also working on, together with United for Efficiency and UNEP, we are looking also at the issue of energy efficient cooling appliances. Here we're looking at refrigeration and air conditioning. And then also at the same time, and these two projects, the energy efficient lighting and appliances and the cooling appliances project, are done at regional level. But just recently, we are now involved in a project funded by the Global Environment Facility, again together with UNEP and CTCN. And in this case, we are looking at refrigeration and distribution transformers, and seeing how then these could be, we could look at leapfrogging in the adoption of these technologies. So in brief, this is an overview of some of the work that we're doing recently. And on top of that, we have also been involved in identifying opportunities for energy efficiency in the industrial sector, and we've developed a program for industrial energy efficiency in the region at large. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you very much, Kuda, and thank you, Satya and Guillermo as well for the opening remarks. We're short on time, but do have a few follow-up questions as well for each of you, but just ask you to be short and to the point on those. Kuda, if you could just expand a bit more on how it works as far as the process for regional harmonization, how that works for implementation at the national level. If you could just describe that process a bit more for the audience.
Yes, thank you so much, Patrick. Yes, the modus operandi of SADC is actually based on a consensus. So the region has to agree on measures that are taken, and then these measures, once they are agreed in a consensus, then they are adopted. So with such kind of modus operandi, it calls for strong engagement. One would need to engage extensively with the member states, share the views that we are trying to push across, and then get a consensus from them. It then becomes much easier then to get or to push through a program and get that regional buy-in. So a typical example, like I mentioned, the issue of phasing out of inefficient lighting. Because it was agreed at the regional level, then it became easier then for us to look at the steps then to follow to implement measures such as the minimum managed performance standards. So what then we did is at regional level, we partnered with the regional organization that is coordinating standards, which is called SADC or SADC Coordination in Standards, which mainly comprises of the standard bureaus across the SADC member states. So together with this regional body, we established technical committees, regional technical committees, which then had to do all the work in terms of looking at the technicalities of the standards, what the standard itself should contain, and then ensure that this standard also reflects to the realities on the ground, but also at the same time taking the best practices across the world. So what we have done together with the SADC is we have developed now the minimum managed performance standards for lighting at the regional level. And due to that engagement and consensus at regional level, we are happy to say just 2 weeks ago, the minimum managed performance standards for lighting have been adopted by the Executive Committee of SADC. So now they are now adopted as regional standards, with 85% of the member states voting a yes to the adoption of these standards. We have equally used the same structures that we have developed, that we have established for lighting. These are the same standards that we are now using for the energy efficient cooling and appliances program. And we hope now that, we are now working towards harmonization of or adoption of these standards at national level, because they've been adopted at regional level. Then at national level, it becomes much easier now to extract these standards and then look at the national context and then apply them as national standards.
Okay, no, thanks a lot. So it's a framework to work within and work on multiple products. And that gets me into my next question for you, Septia, from ACE. ACE has been working with ASEAN member states for some time now on multiple products. So just wanted to understand how that works, if it's a one-time thing or it's something that's done over time, and how you're working with member states for the update of standards in Southeast Asia.
Thank you, Patrick, for the question. In ASEAN, we have a subsector network for energy efficiency. We call it ENCSSN. And the SSN will responsible for the coordination of the ASEAN's collective energy efficiency efforts towards achieving our aspirational target, including all the follow-up activities to achieve the target. And the SSN, which is the ASEAN Center for Energy, is the secretariat of the SSN, will facilitate the coordination and implementation of the energy efficiency and conservation program through the establishment of networks, fora, conferences, and seminars, as well as we could also encourage new initiatives and knowledge to exchange with our dialogue partners and international organizations, including as well as private sectors, research institutions, and financial institutions. So that's where we update time to time the dynamics and the condition of the energy efficiency. Hopefully can make something very useful for the policymakers to make a policy not only for the national level, but of course to the regional level, Patrick. Thank you.
Okay, great. So it's something that's regularly done, and you interact with the member states on a regular basis with those other stakeholders. So certainly something that's interesting for other regions as well. So with that, Guillermo, I also wanted to understand a bit more on the work in Latin America and Caribbean, and on any challenges and barriers that you have seen as far as the countries and subregions there in implementing harmonized standards. If you could expand a bit more on that.
Yes, thank you very much, Patrick, for this question. I will just make it short and to the point. I would say that the main barriers here in Latin America and the Caribbean is that some countries, and for example, Argentina, takes a reference for its own rules on legislation on energy efficiency, such as lighting, equipment, and appliances, from European norms. And other countries, such as Brazil, the biggest Latin American economy by far, takes a reference on American norms. So even within Mercosur founding members, Argentina and Brazil, both members of Mercosur, we have the two biggest economies that they are following different pathways. And that makes very difficult to achieve some kind of harmonization, not only on this sector, but on every sector on energy efficiency issues. Besides that, another point, any country in our region adapts the international rules to its own particular circumstances. And in some countries, for example, the ones I mentioned, Brazil, Argentina, the strong lobby from local industries are always trying that energy efficiency norms do not cast them aside. So it usually happens that in our region, some industries or processes that they are not as efficient as they are, for example, in the US or in Europe. So local industries tend to press on governments not to approve high energy efficiency standards and even less harmonize it within the region. However, there's always a possibility to do something, and perhaps the major chance that we could achieve right now, just in the short term, is to gain or to try to have a momentum for some kind of harmonization on the appliances and lighting sector could be reached on countries of the region that have not gone any further on energy efficiency legislation at all. We do have, in Latin America, we still have some countries that they have not gone any further on energy efficiency legislation. So maybe that could be the first step to gain some sort of harmonization. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Guillermo. And with that, I think we do need to wrap up this panel. It was very interesting to hear the work that's been underway and the similarities of the ambition that each of the regions has, and the frameworks that regional harmonization work does provide, and that it is something that needs to be paid attention to over time and updated, continued to be updated, the regional standards, so that to keep the ambition of the countries in the region. So certainly something that would be interesting to discuss further with you, but unfortunately we don't have the time. But I would like to thank each of our panelists, Septia, Kuda, and Guillermo, for being with us today, and look forward to engaging with you again in the near future. So with that, I would like to hand it over to the next panel, which will be moderated by Steve Koda, one of our partners from the International Copper Association, who will take you through that panel. Over to you, Steve.
Great, Patrick. Thank you so much. And I invite the other panelists to please turn on their cameras and to unmute their lines. It's a pleasure to serve as a moderator for the second half of this event, and congratulations to the first panel for an excellent discussion on the importance of regional harmonization. And in the second half, we're going to focus on the products themselves that are key to energy conservation and decarbonization. And I'm joined by two individuals that will ably lead us through that discussion. But first, I recognize that me and my organization will be unfamiliar to some of you, and you may be wondering what copper's place is in this discussion. And I'll start off by saying that copper is inextricably linked to the clean energy transition and to decarbonization. And that's because copper is the best non-precious conductor of heat and electricity, which makes it a critical component to all three pillars of a clean energy future: renewables, electric vehicles, and energy efficient products, and they all require more copper. So that's copper as a material. And as to the International Copper Association, ICA's 30 members are the responsible stewards for the world's copper industry. And each year, ICA's members invest in programs and partnerships that are making a positive impact on nearly all 17 of the UN SDGs, and in particular on SDG 7. And ICA's largest, and I would say perhaps its strongest work stream, is in energy efficiency. And there we bring more than 20 years of technical expertise and partnership building. Our flagship program in this space is United for Efficiency, and we're proud to be one of the co-founders of U4E. Now, just a little bit of perspective leading into the discussion. According to the International Energy Agency, energy efficiency has the greatest share of action needed to achieve the Paris Agreement that was referenced at the very beginning. And despite the recognized need and importance for scaling of energy efficiency, action unfortunately hasn't met expectation. I participated in an IEA workshop this morning, and it was stated that we need to triple the increase in energy efficiency globally versus what's been taking place in recent years. Now, U4E, of course, is committed to making contributions in this space. We're focused on market transformations towards energy efficient appliances, equipment, and lighting. And this work is primarily done in non-OECD countries where efficiency standards are either non-existent or woefully behind best available technologies. And these are important products because they account for a majority of global electricity consumption. And just taking a look at the cooling products covered by U4E, that's air conditioners and refrigerators, over the next 2 decades, electricity demand for these products is expected to rise by 110%, more than double. Now, with the correct policy interventions, we can eliminate nearly 2/3 of that increased electricity consumption. And that energy savings is equivalent to 490 power stations of 500 megawatts each. The CO2 savings is nearly a gigaton, and the savings to the users of these products is about $100 million globally each year. Now, with that context, I'm pleased to turn the discussion over to our two panelists who represent global companies that I would consider to be really market leaders in producing efficient, forward-looking appliances and equipment. They're also both long-standing partners in U4E, and it's a personal privilege to partner with both of their organizations. Now, first we'll hear from Victor Sundberg of Electrolux, and then from Miguel Oliva from Hitachi ABB Power Grids. And I'll ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves more fully and to keep their opening remarks, if we can, to 5 minutes or less, and then we'll get into a more interactive discussion. Victor, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me. I'm Victor Sundberg, based in Brussels, working for Electrolux, a global Swedish-based household appliance manufacturer. We are a happy member of the United Nations United for Efficiency program since 2015, and the Cool Coalition as well since 2019. And I have 2 charts here that I wanted to use, if maybe we can put them on. There we go. Yes, I wanted to mention very practically 2 things that we have done here. One thing is we have done as a company, individually, in the Cool Coalition. So in addition to our company targets for climate neutrality by 2050 and the energy saving, we launched a F-gas. F-gases are gases used in cooling systems, refrigerators, air conditioners, heat pump, tumble dryers, and so on. And F-gases have a high global warming impact. And we introduced a reduction plan in the Cool Coalition and a commitment to remove and reduce these gases as far as possible. Now, of course, on the screen, you cannot see exactly the details here, but we are quite simply saying to the left what application it is. So it could be refrigerator, freezer, it can be air conditioner, it can be heat pump, tumble dryer. And then we are setting ourselves the limit of global warming potential and the date and the geographical region when we will reach the reduction or total phase out of these gases. This is published on our corporate website of Elect. If you search on Electrolux and F-gases, you will find it. And we encourage other companies to present something similar, something better, beat this one, compete with us, and we will compete again. And we need to have a race to remove these gases before legislation is doing this. Legislation is also updated in this area for the European Union, but not equally quick, I would say, in the rest of the world. On the next page, I would just like to show you the effect of regional policy in the energy efficiency area and energy labeling. So this is the European Union. It's in a report available from the European Commission on the website of the Commission. It's the eco-design impact auditing study they do to check what the results have been over the years. And it contains a lot of interesting information, not only about energy, but materials and chemicals and other too. But if we focus on energy, we have a very interesting result here for refrigerator and freezer. So from 1990, it's the energy efficiency, energy consumption per refrigerator is tracked here in this diagram in the middle. And we can see that the result from 1990 to 2020 is an improvement of 70%. I just check here that you can still hear me because I got a warning triangle here on Stephen.
Yeah, we could hear you, Victor. It's fine.
Good, good. So 70% improvement in energy efficiency. And you see the business as usual, the dotted line here without any policy would not have been as impressive. So it's really key here to have the legislation, both the energy efficiency limits and the energy labeling to drive the competition, innovation, and also the consumers to select the best appliances. And this is also in line with the methodology proposed by the United for Efficiency model regulation and guidance documents. Of course, for us as manufacturers, it's helpful here that the European Union is a market of, at the moment there, when the legislation was introduced, you see the arrow of the diagram in the middle, in 1995-96, were 15 countries working together. Of course, today in Europe, we are 27 countries working together, so it's a very interesting size of market for a producer to improve his products for. The total market of refrigerator freezer today in Europe is about 25 million units a year in Europe. The diagram to the right is the most important one. It follows the same trend more or less, but this is the total CO2 emission that have been reduced because of this policy of the European Union. It's also a reduction of about 70%. So if we look at 2020, the reduction is about 30 million tons CO2 per year, which have been avoided compared to the business as usual. And this is more or less equivalent to the annual energy consumption or CO2 emission of a country like Denmark or Tunisia. So I think that's quite impressive. So that is basically our recommendation. We really need legislation to help guide consumers and also drive producers to develop these more efficient products, and it definitely is possible. Yeah, I'll stop there. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Victor. I think I'm based here in the US. We've seen similar improvements in efficiency in refrigerators and freezers. Unfortunately, there's an alarming trend in America where you buy an efficient refrigerator and then you take the one that's 10 or 15 years old and put it in the garage to cool beer. So I'm sure they're behaving more responsibly in Europe. With that, we'll go to Miguel Oliva from Hitachi ABB Power Grids, who's going to talk about distribution transformers. And Miguel, I think that there's generally a good general awareness about refrigerators, but distribution transformers maybe not so much. But this is a critical piece of equipment where efficiency is important for stabilizing power grids. For example, we heard from the first panelist from Africa talking about blackouts, brownouts, and that sort of thing. So if you can shed some perspective on this and help us understand this important need. Thank you. I think you're on mute, Miguel.
No, thank you, Stephen. Thank you all for your attention today. This is Miguel Oliva from the Transformer Business Unit at Hitachi ABB Power Grids, and it's a pleasure to contribute to this initiative talking about transformers and energy efficiency. And before entering into details, I would like to put transformers and energy efficiency into context using the slide that you will be able to see on the screen, if we can share that. And today we have listened to different initiatives and benefits of energy efficiency across the regions. Victor just talked about refrigerators, freezers, and how they are increasing their efficiency, supporting on the standards and regulations. And that is referring to the energy consumption. This is what you have on the right-hand side of the screen. You have all the electrical equipment, appliances, lighting, from houses, industries, business, etc. And of course, the energy efficiency efforts are devoted on the consumption side to reduce the energy consumed by those products, being more energy efficient product, consuming less energy, electricity. But to enable this consumption, we have the whole electrical system, that is what you have on the left-hand side, that take care of the generation, the transport and distribution of the electricity, and making the electricity available to all of us. And transformers, what you see in the shaded gray circles, are part of the system. They are located at different steps of the journey of the electricity from the generation to consumption. And why we are talking about energy efficiency in transformers, because electricity is passing by through all those transformers at the different steps. And even if transformers are a very efficient piece of equipment, we are talking about efficiencies in some cases reaching 99%, but ranging from 97 to 99%. Even if they are very efficient, a small portion of the electricity passing by is lost in form of energy losses. And then the reason why energy efficiency is so important, because we are talking about millions of transformers installed worldwide, from generation till consumption, and they are operating continuously. Day and night, 1 year after the other. And in the journey from the generation till consumption, we have an average of 4 or 5 transformers in that path. So in total, about 5% of the global electricity is lost in transformer losses. That's why energy efficiency is important. And of course, today we have commented that electrification will grow, and this will be make the contribution even more important as the let's say electricity, the electrification is growing. So if we talk about trends in terms of energy efficiency in transformers, we talk about a reduction of transformer losses, having eco-efficient solution, eco-efficient transformers. In case of distribution transformers that we are talking today, are those transformers that are close to our houses, to the industries business, very close to consumption. And we have in many regions, many countries around the globe, we have minimum energy performance standards for distribution and power transformers. For example, in Europe, in Australia, Canada, China, Israel, Korea, Japan, US. And what you see on the screen are those. And you see there a graph with the different efficiency level for three-phase liquid field distribution transformers. And this type of regulations and minimum energy performance standard are very important to prescribe a minimum level of efficiency, because of course efficiency involved in many cases a wider discussion. It have a lot of benefits. We talk about lower losses, that mean lower CO2 emission, let's say cost saving. But but it's not only about the reduction of losses. There are other trends, because and we have commented today also, the system is becoming more complex with the rise of renewable energy sources. So we have power quality, we have a digitalization on top of energy efficiency to make a better use of the system, extend the life of the assets, and contributes also to network security and reliability, important as we have also commented today. We have other trends, because losses is one important part of the whole sustainability journey as a wider concept. So we have also, we can contribute to carbon neutrality, reduction of carbon footprint, considering all the impact, not only in operation, but also in our manufacturing facilities, and also the end of life. But in concluding these opening remarks, losses and energy efficiency in general, but for transformers and distribution transformers, should remain on top of our agendas, and we should work collectively towards these goals.
Thank you, Miguel. Very, very good points on this topic. You highlighted something important, that transformers are inherently fairly efficient, but with service lives, if I'm not mistaken, a distribution transformer can be installed for about 40 years. So even small gains in efficiency mean a lot over the lifetime of the product. You also mentioned 5% of the electricity losses globally from this product. If I'm not mistaken, and your graph showed primarily developed countries. If I'm not mistaken, in Africa, as much as 1/3 of the transmission and distribution losses come from inefficient transformers. So quite a lot of work to be done there. And then maybe this is a good segue into a question for you, and then I'll come back to you, Victor, is, this first panel talked about the importance of regions harmonizing on efficiency standards, but then that means that there needs to be products available in the marketplace. So if you're looking at Southeast Asia or Africa, or regions within Africa, do those countries have the confidence to move forward with MEPs, knowing that products are going to be available? You can comment on that.
Yes, and definitely yes. Energy efficient transformers are available in these regions, both from considering local, regional, and also global manufacturers. And the benefits associated to that, maybe we can comment a little bit about the benefits to understand why we should, because we should continue working towards this harmonization, towards a minimum efficiency standards, because of the associated benefits. And the first action, I think it's important, is understand those benefits, being educational in that respect, because at the end of the day, in many cases you have commented, specifically in regions like Africa and other regions, the developing countries, the contribution of distribution transformers to overall system losses are even higher than the world average. And when we talk about these, let's say, eco-efficient lower loss transformers, generally involve an optimized design using more and higher grade type of material. So to your question, is that available? Yes. And of course, these have implications, because having lower losses implies lower operating cost. That means across, you commented 40 years life of transformer with losses that have a cost. It's not only about reduction of CO2 emissions that contributes to the environment goals, but also it have a cost perspective. But we need to put this into context, because having energy efficient distribution transformer implies higher first cost, higher purchase cost that is more than compensated when we consider the cost of the savings associated to losses across the life of the transformer. So we need to explain that. We need to use total cost of ownership concept that consider both the purchasing cost and the total cost of the operating losses across the transformer life. And I explain that because in many cases we have short-time business decision that maybe could look at purchasing not so efficient equipment and distribution transformer, and that's why harmonization and having minimum efficiency performance standards can help on that, because provide a whole and holistic approach and put all those benefits into context. Just to put an example, because we are talking, it's not just about the cost of the losses, but we have CO2 emissions, but we have also positive effect on the system reliability, because as we reduce significant with the minimum efficiency performance standard, we may reduce the losses associated to all this equipment. We reduce the peak demand. We have a lower load, and for example, we have listened today about the load shedding in Africa. So this may help on that. But all those the energy that is saved is not only contributing to system reliability. It may enhance the electrification efforts, because more electricity will be available. You may not need to invest in new or an additional generation facilities, because you have more energy available, and therefore providing electricity access to more people. So I think these are the very let's say in a summary the benefits. Answering your question, this is available for all those regions, and it's a matter of continue the effort to explain the benefits and also the efforts to have this, let's say, to push for regulation and to push for minimum efficiency performance standard to make those benefits a reality.
Yeah, no, very, very good points all around, Miguel. I mean, an important thing that you've highlighted is looking at the lifetime costs versus the first cost. This is often a barrier to the efficient products. And just maybe one more statistics to highlight the challenge in Africa. If I'm not mistaken, only 2 countries of the 54 in the African Union currently have MEPs for distribution transformers. So there's a great opportunity for you in this space. Right. So Victor, over to you, and you're going to have the last word because we're running out of time. You spoke at the beginning about the great work that Electrolux is doing on F-gases, and I know from speaking with you just how important all of that is. But maybe we can talk a little bit more about the work on energy efficiency, and we've highlighted on some of the challenges and barriers. But you know, in your minds, what is driving, what will drive, what needs to drive this movement towards, as I said, we need to, according to the IEA, triple the amount that we're doing on energy efficiency. I mean, as a manufacturer of high efficiency products, are the manufacturers driving the agenda? Is it the policy that's going to drive this? I mean, what do you think is going to be one of those things to get us to start to scale up to where we need to be?
Yeah, I think we now there's a lot of history available on development. We see, for example, the diagrams I showed from the European Union. So the technology is there, the knowledge is there, but maybe the specific products are not yet there on every market. But the reason for this now, I would target being the lack of legislation in those countries or those markets. Because the legislation is very important, also the energy label, to establish the same level of competitive framework for all the actors on the market. That's key. This is really what's driving the producers to deliver what is legally required and to compete with, better energy labeling, better products performing better on the energy label, and so on. So I see now at this time, Maybe 20 years ago, we would have answered slightly different, that compressors need to develop and cooling systems and insulation and so on, but that's not the issue now.
Yeah. No. Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Right. And maybe one final quick point from you, Victor. The first part of the discussion talks about, you know, the regional harmonization of standards, right? Collaboration among countries. I mean, I've got to think that there's an advantage for a manufacturer if you've got, let's say, the 10 countries in the ASEAN are harmonized on a standard for a refrigerator. It's got to make things much easier for you as a manufacturer, no?
Absolutely. That's why I also mentioned that when the EU legislation started on refrigerators, there were 15 EU countries, quite important large countries. Now we are 27 in the EU having the same legislation, and some countries around the EU too, I would say.
Yeah.
In fact. And that is, of course, when you develop new products, efficient not only for energy efficiency, but in terms of production and being more affordable to the consumer, it's key to have a large market that is available to you where you can sell the appliances.
Right,
and
sure.
of course, always trying to use the same, not only the legal requirements, of course, but the testing methodology. How do you evaluate the refrigerator in the laboratory? What's the test standard that you should use to measure the appliance?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
There we have a new international IEC standard that I can really highlight that most countries in the world are using, apart from the American region is using a slightly different version.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right, we could continue this discussion for another hour, I think, but we do have to wrap up. My thanks very much to you, Victor and Miguel, for bringing your interesting perspectives to this dialogue. And with that, I'll turn it over to Paul Kellett for the closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Steve, and sincere thanks to all our speakers and panelists today representing the different global regions, some 60 countries in total, and the global private sector manufacturers who are all involved in the ever-increasing electrical products market. Just heard the market is doubling, and by size by 2050, billions of new appliances, motors, drives, and power distribution transformers to be added to the global stock. The world is continuing to become more digital, more urban, and more electric, certainly, as we've just heard, and we urgently need to make sure that these new electrical products are as climate friendly and energy efficient as possible. Our thanks to, on behalf of United for Efficiency and the Economy Division at the UN Environment Programme, to everyone for joining today's Eco-Efficient Products event. We very much welcome all inputs to help us accelerate the implementation of our strategic global market transformation program, which is now across some 40 developing and emerging economies. And as you've just heard today, in practically all global regions, there are significant opportunities available to scale up and accelerate the change over to much higher performance electrical products, particularly with much more regional cooperation and dedicated national market transformation programs. Half of the countries we work with, for example, have no or ineffective minimum energy performance standards for many of the key electrical products we've just heard about today. We've just heard earlier that eco-efficient products, on the other hand, are readily available if the consumer market demand is created and sustained through effectively implementing the necessary policy approaches and programs for their widespread deployment, as Electrolux just presented for the EU, for example. The savings available are measured in the hundreds of billions of dollars, in billions of tons of CO2 saved, and in hundreds of new power plants avoided. Regional harmonization can help greatly accelerate the availability and affordability of higher performance electrical products, as well as reducing the costs for national governments in establishing and running programs. As we've also heard earlier, we can achieve vast economic and greenhouse gas savings by using eco-efficient products as the norm, unlocking the energy efficiency potential to reduce global greenhouse gas emissions by almost half by 2050. However, we need much more regional harmonization support to get us there. We need to work together more to urgently ensure that eco-efficient electrical products are given the same level of strategic importance and support in both regional and national markets, at least to the same levels of priority given to new renewable energy supply and other electrical infrastructure investment. I would just like to thank again the range of United for Efficiency partners and countries participating in today's event for presenting on the very significant climate action, energy security, energy access and affordability opportunities that are readily available today with eco-efficient products and with the right supportive policies that can deliver sustainable, affordable energy for all. On the industry side, our thanks to Hitachi ABB, Electrolux and the International Copper Association. Our thanks too to the regional organizations in Southern Africa, in Asia and in Latin America and the Caribbean. We will be in contact again shortly, and as I mentioned, we very much welcome all inputs to help us scale our United for Efficiency public-private partnership activity. Eco-efficient products can rapidly unlock the multiple benefits with regional market transformation and international cooperation if we simply prioritize eco-efficient over business as usual. The event recording will be available shortly too, and we have many technical and policy resources also available, including new global model regulation guidelines for minimum energy performance standards for the main lighting, appliance and equipment products, as well as country savings assessments for more than 150 countries, and new green procurement guidelines and specifications. All of these are available from our website, and please be in touch. We're happy to provide additional information and feedback. Thank you very much again on behalf of the United for Efficiency team for your kind attention and support in transforming the global energy market to much higher performance eco-efficient products. We look forward to seeing you again at another U3 event soon. Thank you very much for your support.